To my girlfriend, to everyone who has shown me kindness in this life, I sincerely thank you. You made an unbearable existence bearable at times. I am deeply sorry I have disappointed you all. I wish things were different. I wish this message was a message about how I won. The Eden Night story? I think it probably is a good idea to cover the Eden Night story. So, I was in Austria with Kraut, the YouTuber Kraut, and he was like, yo, Dylan, have you seen the story? Have you seen this person who tried to, who possibly ended their own life? And I said, no, I didn't know. And he brought me to the attention of Eden Night, who posted on March 12th, this twit longer, which has now been viewed over 30 million times, that talks about their struggle as a trans person, trying to get care, trying to be accepted in their family, and how they were essentially smuggled out of the United States, basically kidnapped out of the United States, lied to by people hired by her parents, who work for the Saudi government, brought back to Saudi Arabia, forced to detransition, before then killing themselves after being forced to detransition. So we're going to read the twit longer, then we're going to read the article about it, and then I'm going to talk about a potential response that I think would be appropriate for the United States government. Because I see a lot of people talking about the story, which is good. I don't see mainstream outlets like BBC, CNN, MSNBC, Fox, NPR. I don't see any of them covering it, but I do see it getting a lot of attention on social media. So that's good, but I haven't seen people propose possible responses that the American government could take in accordance with this incident. So we're going to read what is essentially their suicide note, and then we're going to read an article about what happened. Final message. Hi, if you're reading this, I've already killed myself. I have given life every opportunity. I have given myself every chance to get better, but I couldn't do it. I wasn't strong enough. I don't think there was a universe where I was ever strong enough to survive this. Why? Sometime in the summer, I was contacted by Michael Pokoleko, cybersecurity guy, through an IRL friend who was claiming he was a fixer and wanted to fix the issue that was between me and my parents. I thought this was impossible. I'm transgender and they are strict conservative Muslims, but I decided I would give it a shot because it can't hurt, right, Lamau? After the next couple of months, I had called Michael and his associate Ellen. These calls seemed innocuous and honestly pretty helpful. It was mainly questions about my safety and whether I had my needs met at the place I was staying at. Towards the end of my stay at my friend's place, I had witnessed a traumatic event and was already in a bad place mentally. Michael took note of this and decided to push me to leave Georgia and move back to Virginia. Michael and Ellen, along with a Saudi lawyer named Badir, met me at the train station. I was taken to a hotel and allowed to experience DC. I was generally optimistic and believed this could work. God, I wish I wasn't so fucking stupid. At this point, the only person in that group that I was in contact with was Badir, the Saudi lawyer. Badir, throughout this entire time, in his weird way, tried to get me to detransition. First, he pampered me. He got me an apartment temporarily. He took me out to eat. He took me to therapists. But over time, the more conversation I had with him in person, the more I realized what he was trying to do. He tried to get me to be, quote-unquote, normal. Gave me examples of feminine men and said that they are transgender, but they are hiding it. And that it's better to hide it. Told me stories personally about people he knew that successfully hid it. Repeated constantly that I can just hold two lives, the female me and the male me. Constantly said I look like a man, always talked down on my appearance, and bought me masculine clothing and tried to make me throw away all of my feminine clothing. At every step of the way, he tried to detransition me. I had a breakout over this and bombarded Michael and Ellen with texts about what was happening. They did not respond. I did not realize fast enough what was happening because I'm fucking stupid. At a certain point, I realized I was entirely dependent on Badir for food and shelter, and that if I ran away, he could easily find my location, and since I was illegal, I would have just been deported to Saudi Arabia. I subconsciously gave up. I was too tired. I did everything he asked. I cut my hair. I stopped taking estrogen. I changed my wardrobe, and I met my dad. And then I had another breakdown. My mom kept telling me to repent or I was going to hell, and I did. I repented. I believed I was going to hell so much that I read the entire Quran front to back in a couple of days, crying the entire fucking time about what a disgusting thing I am, and I didn't sleep. I repented, and I was broken. Badir then booked a flight back to Saudi Arabia, and I came back. The first few months was fine. Okay, even. I was on edge the entire time, but I was treated like I was going to run away at any second by my family. Then came the second month. At this point, I was subjected to daily searches of my belongings. My mom searched all of my electronics whenever she got the chance. I was berated for being a freak when my mom found my private photos. My dad called me a failure and an abomination. I was told that Michael, Ellen, and Badir were actually all specifically hired to get me back, and that there was no escape from my situation. By the way, this is human trafficking. This is human trafficking. They specifically lied about their intentions when interacting with them, lured them into a false sense of security, made them entirely dependent upon themselves, but before forcing them to go back to Saudi Arabia. This is human trafficking. Just letting you guys know that these people should actually be arrested. I was destroyed, but I wanted to keep going. After the first time they found my HRT, it was traumatizing, but I didn't want to stop. I didn't want to live if I couldn't transition. Then the second time came, and after that, I took a month break off of HRT, then got back on it. They have found my HRT again, and I am done fighting. I wasn't always a good or even decent person. At times I was a fucking asshole and a disgusting human being. But there were times I felt like I was good. I don't understand why I was given this life with these circumstances. Every day hurts. Every second stings. I've tried killing myself in the past, but every single time I was still holding on by a thread somewhere deep inside me. I think that's why I survived then. This time, I am done. I am tired. Messages to the people I love. To my friends, to the people I chose to be my family, to my girlfriend, to everyone who has shown me kindness in this life, I sincerely thank you. You made an unbearable existence bearable at times. I am deeply sorry I have disappointed you all. I wish things were different. I wish this message was a message about how I won, how I escaped and built a successful life, how I managed to get FFS, SRS, and beat my dysphoria. I wish I was speaking to you about how proud I am of myself to have done the impossible. But that's not my reality. I wish this world wasn't so fucking comically cruel. I'm actually laughing writing this sentence. It's unironically ridiculous how bad my luck has been the past couple of weeks. Someone just walked past my car and glanced at me. I wonder if they know I'm going to kill myself. I wonder what they think about me if they knew who I actually was. I wanted to be a leader for people like me, but that wasn't written to happen. I hope that the world gets better for us. I hope our people get old. I hope we get to see our kids grow up to fight for us. I hope for trans rights worldwide. Goodbye. So when this was posted, obviously, there's no amount of words I could use to describe how unbelievably depressing and sad and horrific this story is. When this was originally posted, you can kind of see it in the replies. A lot of people didn't know if they were actually dead. They were messaging "please be alive." They assumedly got a ton of DMs, calls from friends, and stuff like that. But shortly afterwards, through confirmation by the family, we found out that yes, Eden Knight did pass away after ending their own life, due to the fact that they were smuggled out of the country and then pushed to kill themselves by their parents. Even if that's not how they view it, that is what they did. They're going to be hosting a funeral. There is this Google Doc which has all of the abduction information, all the kidnapping, human trafficking information here, including the final links and everything else. Her father, which was the person who organized this entire stuff. He was the person who organized this kidnapping operation, this abduction, and these lies and deceit in order to smuggle their child back to the country before pushing them to basically kill themselves. They're actually the deputy governor for supervision at the Saudi Central Bank. This is a very wealthy and powerful man. It is part of the reason why he had the resources to do this in the first place. And they posted a link, which has now been deleted, It's been deleted because their family is, to say that their family is getting dragged on the internet, just it would be an understatement. So they've now locked their account, their family account that they had, and deleted this tweet. But this is what they put out. The young man, and then they posted their dead name, has moved to the mercy of God Almighty, and prayers will be held for him, God willing, today, Monday, after the Al-Sir prayer in this mosque. And they post a location of where this will be happening in Saudi Arabia. This has been deleted. They've now locked their account because all of their responses are "fuck you." Her name was Eden. I hope you I hope you get hit by a bus. Like, very obvious and understandable anger directed at the family. So here is what I have to say about this. First off, the human rights, sorry, I have a terrible cough. The human rights situation for LGBTQ plus people in Saudi Arabia is absolutely atrocious. Not only is the government extremely discriminatory towards them, due to the fundamentalist views of the government, from the Wahhabi fundamentalist views of the government, but also the societal views generally held by the majority of people there are very reactionary towards them. And their family had these reactionary views. They could never convince their daughter to come back to them normally, and so instead decided to engage in basically human trafficking to trick them to come back. Horrifically immoral, disgusting, and horrendous behavior. And I've seen a lot of people talking about how should this be responded to. Not only should it be that every single one of these fixers, every single one of these people should be dragged, and every single time they try to do work in the future, should this be brought up so people like this can't do this type of harm again. But I have a specific response that I think the American government should do, which is going to require a lot of attention being brought to this. Not just, hey, it got a lot of tweets on Twitter, not just, hey, it got a lot of attention on, pinknews.com, or like a few of the smaller websites that talk about LGBTQ plus issues. It's going to require a lot of attention being brought to it, especially since we're talking about a U.S. ally and somebody who works for the Saudi government, somebody of financial influence who could organize this kidnapping, this horrendous action on their own. I am advocating for a specific type of sanction that we can do against the father who organized this and everybody who was involved in this, so that they can no longer come to the United States, so they cannot engage in human trafficking in the future. If you engage in human trafficking, you should not be able to come to our country, because if you come to our country, what's the risk that they might do this again? And they should not be able to use the financial institutions of America to enrich themselves so they can go hurt more people. Now, the Majinsky legislation, I never pronounced it correctly. This legislation was originally created in reference to a Russian journal. I believe it was a Russian journalist. Here it is. It was a Russian who was executed by Russia. And this was built so they could sanction the direct individuals involved. This legislation has now been used to sanction officials in China who are engaged in oppression of the Uyghurs. It has been used against government officials in Myanmar who are engaged in genocide against Muslims. And it has made it difficult for them to do business and financial activity in the United States. I think this legislation being used against this person is not only reasonable and I think a good idea. This is like the bare minimum of what should be done. This is somebody who cannot live in civilized society, and so they should not be allowed in our civilized society. They should not be allowed to come to the United States, make money, and enrich themselves so they can go murder more trans girls. Now, the odds of them doing this again were, of course, low because the motivation was personal. It was their family. But we should not, there needs to be repercussions that come with this. We need to make sure something like this never happens again. That people know that if you engage in this type of human trafficking, this type of abduction towards trans people in the borders of the United States, it's going to come with repercussions. Obviously, I do not expect much out of an American government who has enabled Saudi Arabia and doing some of the worst atrocities the Middle East have seen for decades in order to have access to their finances, oil resources, and our long-lasting relationship with them in the region in order to counter the Iranians. But I think this is the bare minimum the government can do in response to this horrific, horrific story. I hope this person rests in peace, and fuck her father, man. Absolutely horrific. Yeah, he was a lawyer in an anti-corruption case. It was like 2009 when this happened. So it's like I was like 8, so I don't remember all the details. He was in prison and denied his diabetes drugs and died as a result. Yeah, exactly. And so this type of sanction is specifically supposed to be used in human rights abuses. And gotta be for real with you, the human rights of this person was denied to them as they forcibly detransitioned them and tried to use the immigration status against them to traffic them back to Saudi Arabia. Fuck the people involved in this, man. Fuck her father, and fuck the Saudi government.